right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode number 26 of Right Off the Bus. It is Wednesday, June 23rd, and I'm very excited to announce that though I miss Pat, I wish he could be here. We have the first ever co-host guest in the history of Right Off the Bus. We got Joe Hagen in the building. Joe, I'm pumped for it, man.
I'm pumped too, man. I'm sorry that you lost Pat for the week. Sorry for the downgrade, but I'm happy to be here. Step in. I feel like a special guest referee, like in the WWE.
Yeah. So, tap him in.
Yeah, exactly,
Joe, this is throwing it back. So as the listeners know, Pat and I hosted a radio show at WSKB at Westfield called 4th and 6. And do you know who my co-host before Pat was on 4th and 6? It was none other than Joe Hagen, man. We were crushing it in there for a while.
Yeah. We dominated that sports block on Tuesdays at Westfield. Yeah, we were running that city.
It was a good time, man. It was a good time.
It was.
So, hey, I needed a co-host. My first thought, I was like, got to run it back with an old co-host, man. It was a lot of fun doing it at Westfield, and we're excited to dive into it, man. Joe's as big of a Celtics fan as anyone, and New England through and through, man. So this is going to be fun. Pat's a Ravens fan, so this is better,
Yeah. I've been listening to the pod every now and then, and I picked up on that. There's some concerning things about Pat. I'm not gonna lie. Some of his takes bother me. We can dive into that a little bit, but.
Pat, it sounds like he's auditioning for your job over here. This is tough, but.
I wouldn't. I would never. But my one listener question, I think Pat took. I proposed the Grizzly Bear versus the Gorilla.
That was a hot debate.
Yeah, that was a hot debate. I mean, that was one of the episodes I made sure to tune in. I wanted your opinions on that. I think Pat was on the side of the Gorilla, and I just won't stand for that. It's Grizzly Bear. I don't want to reopen old wounds on this show, but you know what? Like, I'm standing firm on the Grizzly Bear, and I will never back down from that.
I know that Pat and I went in like actual analysis, and we were talking like about what is the arena? Is there a cage? Is there climbing involved? There's a lot of factors here.
Yeah, and I'm here to tell you, Chandler, that it doesn't matter, and the Grizzly Bear will win no matter what. Again, we don't have to reopen old wounds, but I would be happy to have a guest spot on this show and just talk about animal matchups. That would probably be me at my zenith, talking on a microphone. Just what animals could beat each other up.
Honestly, I like the idea of a new guest segment there. I really do. But unfortunately, the problem is we could do a whole podcast right now on Grizzly versus Gorilla and all these different settings. But, we got to stay true and true, Joe, and we got to stick to sports because that's what we do around here. So we're going to get into some headlines just to start off, Joe, like we always do. So the first, so the new Supreme Court ruling. It's all about the NCAA education expenses. I see this as a small step in the right direction. My understanding is that they ruled that you cannot put limits on education-related benefits for NCAA athletes if the school wants to pay for them. This means means laptops. This means supplies. This means study abroad trips. There's a lot here. But what were your impressions when you heard this news?
I think I had the same reaction as you. I think it's an amazing thing for the athletes. I mean, it's probably not enough, but like you said, it's a step in the right direction. I mean, we all know what's happening at like the major colleges. Like, they're finding ways to make sure that these players are, taken care of. So anything that they can do that's like above the books and just kind of make sure that everything runs as smoothly as possible for the players, I think is good because, they're kind of put in a tough spot with NCAA regulations.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And one thing I was thinking, I thought back to Shabazz Napier at UConn saying how he didn't have enough food stipends and how there were nights that he didn't eat dinner and there were days he didn't have meals because he ran out of swipes. And I'm like, okay, we got the education expenses, but I need unlimited meal plans for all my athletes too. That's ridiculous.
You know what? If they gotta go to class, don't make them pay for books. Like, what can we do? What can we do to help? What it makes me think of is, did you ever watch the show Blue Mountain State?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. There was a whole like segment of like season 2 or 3 where Alex is going in on like the NCAA rules and regulations, like bagels with cream cheese. It's so convoluted and it makes no sense to anybody. And any way that we can make that easier for all parties involved is better for the sport.
I think that's really well said. Any small step in this direction, we're here for. This is awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, man. Next headline. Another great announcement, man. Carl Nassib, DN for the Oakland Raiders, announces himself as the first openly active gay player in the NFL. I hope I didn't butcher that sentence because I've seen some pretty bad memes about people wording this wrong. But he posted on IG, man. This guy's played for the Browns. He was a captain on the Bucks. He's on the Raiders right now. And to top it all off, in this video that he put out, he said, "I'm donating $100,000 to the Trevor Project, which works against suicide prevention and mental health awareness for the LGBTQ plus community." So, Joe, this is awesome, man. I'm glad it's been so well received. That's all you can hope for in this situation.
That's exactly it. That was like my first reaction too. I think what I thought and what a lot of people thought when they first heard this news was, well, wait a second, wasn't Michael Sam the first openly gay player in the NFL? And, I just remember, what was that, 2013, 14? There was a lot of mixed reactions and weird negative backlash. You remember there was a really wild conspiracy theory that he faked it to improve his draft stock, which was just a completely absurd,
it ruined his draft stock.
Yeah, it made people perceive him in this negative light that did not need to be there. And it was one of those things that kind of warmed your heart a little bit. You know what, maybe we as a society are going in the right direction. So that was great to hear. I know I've heard of this guy too, which is kind of a big deal. It's not like some dude that's probably going to get cut. This is significant.
Yeah, who was the NBA player? Something Collins.
Jason
Collins, not a big enough name. Michael Sam. This man was the co-SEC Defensive Player of the Year with Jadeveon Clowney, who went first in the draft, and he dropped from a third-round grade down to a seventh-round pick, which it totally ruined his career, which is so unfortunate. So my thing was, Joe, you're like me. You're on the Twitter comments. You're on the IG comments. I was just so glad that there weren't negative comments. Some people were making jokes, but it wasn't negative. And just the fact that the NFL community came out in support, that was awesome. Loved JJ Watt saying, "This is awesome. Proud of you, brother, but can't wait for when this isn't breaking news. This shouldn't be breaking news, but unfortunately is." And same as the last thing, small step in the right direction. Small step.
It was a great example of the NFL kind of improving, for lack of a better word. They have come a long way, as a league and as a community. I don't remember this kind of outpouring and support for Michael Sam back in 13 or 14 or whatever it was. So it was definitely I think a great moment for the world of sports.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Well said. So next, getting a little more loose, man. Brady. Going on The Shop on HBO, LeBron and Mav Carter's show, The Uninterrupted. Absolutely slamming, an NFL team, saying, "You're really sticking with that MFer instead of going with me," because they lost interest, at a point in free agency. I love this. I mean, what a great tease, for the trailer that they put out.
Yeah. I just kept racking my head. Who could he be talking about? That's all I was thinking about. Yeah. Who do you think?
Jimmy Garoppolo, Jared Goff in LA. Who was it? But this was very funny. This was hilarious. And a point that I didn't really think about, I forget who brought it up, that I saw it on ESPN, but someone said, you got to remember, there wasn't this outpouring need for Brady in this free agency. Pats weren't they weren't working together to re-sign him. Some teams said he was too expensive. Some teams weren't going to offer him the years. The Bucks were a special situation where they had everything going, plus the money and the ability to move on from their quarterback. But at the same time, this is hilarious because this is Brady at 43 years old, still with this massive chip on his shoulder. And that's what you love to see. This is Brady through and through. He's like this on the field. He's like this off the field. He's like this in a celebrity golf game. It's awesome. I love seeing this from Tom.
Brady's, and I hate to say it because it makes the New England Patriots look a little boring or something. I don't know, but Brady's been on a tear since he left. He's been just killing it in every sense of that word. Remember, as soon as he left, he went on the Howard Stern show, and he was super open, and it was crazy listening to him speak the way he was speaking on Howard Stern. Obviously won the Super Bowl. Now this. By the way, I have a hot take on who he was thinking about, that quarterback.
Tell me.
Baker Mayfield. I think because the Browns, we all knew that was going to be a pretty good team coming into this season, and it was kind of a make or break it year for Baker Mayfield. But I think next to the Buccaneers, who I think kind of we collectively underrated, like going into like Tom Brady. Like, I don't think anybody knew how. Yeah, well, because of Jameis, I don't think anybody knew that defense was like as good as it was. Like, that is a world-class defense they had there. You just don't really typically think about that, like when you think about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But like, we knew the Browns had like some dogs on that team. I think he was really considering the Browns. And Baker kind of makes sense to me because at that point, he was like not that dude. He is now because he proved himself this year. But I think Cleveland could have been that destination he was talking to.
I bet you if McDaniels got that job instead of Stefanski 2 years ago, it would have been Cleveland.
Yeah.
I bet Brady would have been there.
For sure. Yeah.
All right, man. Let's move on. Last headline right here, man. I saw this. I don't know why this isn't being reported more. The Harlem Globetrotters. I don't know if they're the Harlem Globetrotters anymore. The Globetrotters. They're requesting. They sent in like a legit plea to the NBA, asking them to make them an NBA franchise. Yeah. A fun fact, this was in this article. The Globetrotters have only ever played an NBA team twice. 48 and 49. They played the Lakers, the Minneapolis Lakers. They beat them both games. The Minneapolis Lakers won the 49 championship. Just saying, could have been.
Yeah, I don't know, man. The thing with they might be a little rusty if we put them in the league now. If they haven't played since 49. I mean, that's something, man.
They've been running and playing, but yeah, this is trick shot basketball. It's not. Yeah. It's like, yeah, they want to be in the league, but okay, you got $3 billion for the entry fee. It's going to cost.
Yeah, and you know what? If we add the Globetrotters, we're gonna have to add the Generals, whoever they play
every game. Like every game.
Yeah, we have to let them in too. So you know what? This is a slippery slope, Chandler. I don't know about this.
That's funny, man. All right, let's get on to some real basketball, Joe.
All right.
So we got ball on the line, man. We got to catch up on some second round matchups.
Yeah.
So we're going to pass over the Phoenix and Denver series because Pat and I talked about it last week. That sweep, nice and clean over, But we're going to start, man. Hawks at Sixers, winning game 7 in Philadelphia, man. There's a million. Absolutely electric. There's a million things coming out after this game, Joe, but why don't you just give me what you were thinking when you saw, man, the Hawks just beat the Sixers, man.
Yeah. Well, honestly, my very first reaction is, damn, Trae Young is that dude. He is a legit superstar. I was kind of skeptical on him. Maybe it was unfair because I'm kind of biased against scoring guards on bad teams. I'm always I don't know how much I value those stats, but Trae Young he's a different breed. He is as elite gets in terms of offensive players. And I mean, yeah, his defense is a problem, but who cares when you're that good?
Right.
Who cares? He beat the Sixers. That is crazy. There's no way you look at that Atlanta Hawks roster, compare it to the Sixers roster, and say, "Oh, this is pretty close." Like everybody thought this was going to be Sixers in 5.
Right. No, I'm totally with you, man. And I every single round have been picking against the Hawks. I'm like, I thought the Knicks were going to beat them in 6 games. I thought that the Sixers were going to beat them in 5 to 6 games if Embiid was healthy. Embiid wasn't healthy the entire series, which was a problem. But now they're going up against the Bucks, and we'll get into it later. I'm easily picking the Bucks, but I'm like, should I be thinking about the Hawks? But we'll get into that game later, man. So obviously the big story, Ben Simmons. I mean, what was it? 5 fourth quarter shots in the 7 games or something like that. And career low. I mean, all-time NBA low in free throw percentage, minimum 70 shot attempts in a series. Like, man, this is all-time bad. 9.9%. I mean, 9.9 points per game in this series, 34% from the free throw line. It's terrible.
Insanity.
Terrible.
That's Shaq free throw shooting numbers.
It's like worse than Shaq. Shaq shot a career 50%.
Oh, man.
Like, this is worse. This is like Andre Drummond in his rookie season bad. Like, this is horrible.
It's tough to watch. Like I was legitimately getting secondhand embarrassment for Ben Simmons. This is a man that gets paid an ungodly amount of money to play basketball. It was paining me just watching the game, man. Like it was tough to watch.
4 years, 140 something million remaining on his contract, Joe.
Yeah. Seeing, the scuttlebutt online, they're saying that that's the worst contract in the league. I don't agree with it, but like how far he has fallen since since before the playoffs started. I mean, think of where people were rating his value right before the playoffs. Everybody was talking about him as, the real defensive player of the year. And I put that in quotation marks because obviously Gobert is super impactful on defense, but there's something to be said for versatility. And obviously Simmons is, as good as they come right now on defense.
Absolutely.
But I just can't believe the way public opinion has fallen on him. And I feel bad about it, but it's kind of self-inflicted.
It's pretty crazy, man, that the Philadelphia 76ers would not include Ben Simmons in a James Harden deal. And look at where we are right now. I mean, James Harden and Joel Embiid, healthy James Harden. Oh man, that's Kobe Shaq.
He went from the centerpiece of a James Harden deal to there's CJ McCollum swap talks. The Sixers throwing a second on there just to get it done. It is crazy.
Man. If we hadn't already traded Kemba, which we're going to talk about, I would have done a Kemba for Simmons deal. But I mean, that's
in a heartbeat.
Realistically, it's hard with that contract, like you're saying. I mean, you look at Porzingis, you look at Andrew Wiggins, and you pray that Simmons doesn't end up playing with Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, and James Wiseman, because that'd be horrifying. But this guy's 24. He's an all-star. He's been all NBA. He's a 17-7-7 guy in his sleep. So once he gets this confidence back, I think he's an all-star again. But the problem is his confidence is at an all-time low, and that's a hard place to be as a max contract player in the NBA.
Yeah, and it's funny, Chandler, because we find ourselves here in the year 2021, when I can distinctly remember us on fourth and long on our radio show talking about Ben Simmons in 2018. He's going to spend his offseason working on his jumper. He's going to get that confidence up, and here we are. But I don't know, man. He confuses me more than any player I think I've ever seen. And it's quite remarkable that the Sixers, in 2 consecutive drafts, drafted a point guard that, for some inexplicable reason, has a really hard time shooting the ball. An exceptionally hard time shooting the ball. So I don't know what's going on in Philly, man, but they got to look into that.
It's kind of tough, too. You feel bad for Joel Embiid at a point. He flops, he does this, he does that. He's a Philly guy, and we're Boston fans, so we got to hate him. But, man, Joel Embiid, his first few years in the league, played 64 games in 3 years. You felt so bad for him. You're like, if this guy's healthy, he's dominant. He's been healthy. He's been dominant. He's the best big in basketball outside of Jokic and Anthony Davis. You want this guy to succeed? And Tobias Harris is a great piece, and Seth Curry's a great piece, and Maxi's a great piece. They have guys, but Simmons simply cannot work as a second star. They gotta switch it up.
For sure. They have a lot of good role players. And, I was probably lower on the Sixers than a lot of people entering the postseason. I just never believed in their offense. I'm skeptical of any offense that revolves around a big, other than the Nuggets, because Jokic has proven to be this offensive facilitator that we haven't really seen before.
Unicorn.
But I don't really like to use the term unicorn. I think of Porzingis and Jokic is the antithesis of Porzingis, physically. But I was skeptical of an offense led by Embiid in the playoffs, just because, less foul calls, things get bogged down more in the paint. It's harder for him to just bully people like he does in the regular season. You need a guy that can create on the perimeter. And rightfully so, didn't think Ben Simmons was that guy. Seriously skeptical about Tobias Harris. Like you said, Danny Green, Seth Curry, Korkmaz, Dwight Howard, they're good pieces.
Fine.
But you can't rely on any of these guys. The Sixers postseason hopes. I mean, we saw it in Game 7. We saw it all series against the Hawks. They were giving the ball to Seth Curry and saying, Seth Curry, make something happen for us, please. Where are you as a franchise when you're depending on Seth Curry to carry you to the conference finals? I mean, they have significant work to do. And Daryl Morey got a lot of credit, deservedly so, for building a better team around Embiid and Simmons, but they have significantly more work to do.
They absolutely do. They absolutely do. And speaking of a team that has more work to do, man, we're going to get on to this other 7-game series. And those Brooklyn Nets, they got some work to do on that roster construction, I'll tell you. But the Bucks beat the Nets in Game 7, man. This was nuts. This was in Brooklyn. And, this was this series had only gone 4 games last time Pat and I had talked about it. And then Durant has
Mm-hmm.
that obscene game 5 that, is an all-time
Yeah.
historic game. Game
Yep.
6 is awesome. Game 7's awesome. But, as much as injuries dominate this storyline, there's so much more than injuries that go into this. One, I think that the Bucks are that good. I think that Drew
Yep.
Holiday was
Yeah.
an addition that I was appalled when they paid him $40 million a year, worth every single penny. Middleton can step up and be that number 1 at times,
Mm-hmm.
and Giannis is a walking 30 and 15, man. I mean, the guy's unbelievable. Say what you want. He has no bag. He can't shoot. He's not confident.
Yeah.
Well, he still will shoot. How about that, Ben Simmons? At least he tries.
Yeah. It doesn't, the thing about Giannis is it doesn't matter where he's on the court. He will put pressure on the defense. And that is, at the end of the day, what makes superstars great. Like, you're always going to have your eye on Giannis. And like Simmons, not to just pile on Simmons, because I know this is a bad week for Ben Simmons, but like, he disappears in the half court. Who was it? Jared Dudley a couple years ago described him to a T. He's a great transition player. He's average in the half court. He's worse than average. He can't shoot.
Jared Dudley hits that 3 on Ben Simmons and is like, let's go.
Yeah. All that's coming to mind to me right now is that Stephen A thing with Kwame Brown. He can't commit a post move to memory.
It's true, man. Yeah. It's true. It's very strange, but I got to tell you, I think this Bucks team is that good. Mm-hmm. And something I was thinking about too is like, yes, this team is predicated on its stars in Brooklyn, right? But when Harden goes down and Kyrie goes down, those guys, they can't defend. No one on that roster defends other than Bruce Brown. They don't play DeAndre Jordan. They don't play Nick Claxton. Jeff Green, Blake Griffin, they don't defend. Landry Shamet doesn't defend. Joe Harris doesn't defend. Like, you need 3 and D guys around stars. You don't need threes. Like, Joe Harris couldn't hit. I get it. Landry Shamet did his thing, but those guys, they don't do enough. Like, if you're going to have complementary players, like, it's amazing that they're just so single faceted. It was really weird to watch, once those guys had to step up, they simply couldn't do it. And I'm thinking, even with a healthy roster, these guys aren't contributing much. Bruce Brown is their best contributor out of their big 3. It's weird. It's a weird roster.
Yeah, no, it really is. I kind of think you hit the nail on the head there, describing the way that they like interact with each other on the court. Like, there's no real rhyme or reason to it. It's just kind of like 5 dudes out there sometimes that are pretty good at basketball, and one of them's incredible. I think the thing that works for the Nets stylistically, and it only works when they have all 3 of their guys, is they sucker other teams into playing their style of basketball. So I saw this happening in the Celtics series, and the Celtics aren't a great example because they go ISO a lot. But you wind up playing 1-on-1 against the Nets all game, and you're never going to win that against Kevin Durant, James Harden, and Kyrie Irving. I think those guys are so amazing in such like ridiculous offensive talents that they can kind of force a defense to play them that way every trip down the floor. And, Milwaukee has some really talented players. You're right about Drew Holiday. He is a significant upgrade over Eric Bledsoe. Yes. But, he's not, I don't know, like, you can't depend on him for like 25 a night or anything like that. When Chris Middleton's a really great player. I don't know like where he ranks in the echelon of wing players, but he's kind of in that second tier, if you ask me. Giannis is their only guy. And like we said, he doesn't have much of a bag. So it's like, the Bucks did a good job of keeping themselves out of that situation where they're trying to play Nets brand basketball, which is the first time this season I've seen anybody successfully do that. So I think we can officially crown the Bucks as legit.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And I got to tell you, man, we'll talk about it, with the conference finals. The Bucks are looking pretty good in this playoff hunt right now, and I don't think that there's a player left that can match up with Giannis other than Kawhi Leonard, who may be out for the rest of the Clippers run. But let's move on to those Clippers, man. They beat the Jazz 4-2. The Clippers are the first team ever to go down 0-2 in multiple postseason series in the same postseason and win out, man. This is pretty crazy. I got to tell you, the fact that Terrence Mann did it, the fact that Paul George did it.
Pride of Lowell. Terrence Mann. Yeah.
That's very cool, man. That's very cool. And, 40 piece, and you see Donovan Mitchell looking at his stat sheet after the game like, 40. He only missed 6 shots. Like
that was hilarious. He only missed 6 shots.
And you see how dejected he is. But I got to tell you, defensive player of the year, it's a regular season award, but you can't have a defensive player of the year get targeted by Reggie Jackson and Terrence Mann. Reggie Jackson and Terrence Mann targeted the best defensive player in the league, quote unquote. I get it. It's a regular season award. I don't think it should be. I understand why Gobert won it, but man, this Utah Jazz team, when you think that they have everything, they have the 1 seed, they have all these phenomenal role players. Clarkson's not doing enough. Ingles doesn't do enough. Bogdanovich doesn't do enough. And Mitchell's shaky and not healthy. So they end up going out, man. I'm not surprised that the Clippers won. I actually picked them in the series, but this was kind of tough to watch for a Jazz team that you thought was having a pretty magical season.
Yeah, and I would even go as far to say is, what is the Jazz ceiling beyond this? I mean, what kind of moves can they make that doesn't completely destroy their current roster makeup? I mean, if Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert are the guys that you build around, how much better can you get than this? I'm kind of skeptical that they can figure that out. You think of the Utah Jazz, you think of defense, and it was pathetic. Like the way that Reggie Jackson and Terrence Mann were abusing them. Like their whole scheme. So they have Gobert in the drop, and he guards the rim, but like you put him in rotations, he's getting burned by like guys that are just okay. Like that. How do you reckon with that if you're a Jazz fan? Like they have to improve their perimeter defense, but that sacrifices the scoring, and that's like the only reason that they were so dominant this year. We have seen better Jazz defenses in the past fail miserably in the playoffs for the same reasons, because Gobert turns into a liability. And I mean, it's sort of the same thing I have with the Sixers, but even worse for the Jazz. Because the Sixers, you can look at that and say like, oh, this is a complete failure of like a couple of guys here. But the Jazz, just like, oh, they tried their best, and this is not good enough.
Right. So, like the only way they get better is pulling off a crazy trade that's never going to happen. Or Donovan Mitchell takes another leap, not a step, like a leap, and becomes like a top 5 or 6 guy in the league, which just isn't happening yet. He's a baller. He's top 20, but unless he takes that step, this is where you're at.
Are we going to see a disgruntled superstar force their way to Utah? I don't think so. I don't think that's going to happen.
That sentence was just hilarious. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, but I will say, I think the main story of this series is the Clippers. And I'm kind of looking, I'm looking at 2 guys here, and I'm thrilled to be talking to you about this, because I know you're a Paul George guy too. And Paul George, playoff P. He's had a bad reputation the last few years.
Shouldn't have given himself that nickname.
No, he shouldn't have. There's a lot of things Paul George shouldn't have done. That Gatorade commercial. If you have Scal roasting you on television for commercials, man, you gotta cool it, I think.
Don't be 5 for 40 on game-winning shots and make a commercial about hitting game-winning shots.
He's been rightfully roasted, dragged, any adjective you want to throw at it. He's earned it, but this postseason, he's kind of been on like a playoff P reclamation tour, and it's been fun to watch. He's one of my favorite players to watch. Like he really is. He's so smooth. I think as a Celtics fan, as a person that adores Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, he's one of those guys I think that they should try and emulate. He's so smooth, that jumper, and just knows how to get to his spots. So it's fun watching him dominate, especially against good defenses like Utah.
Yeah, I'll say, your thoughts on the Clippers remind me of what we were just saying about the Bucks, with how they're legit. Like, they made that conference finals. They're role players, and not, I shouldn't say role players. They're second stars. The Chris Middleton, the Paul George, they stepped up like crazy, and it felt like they're taking that next step when other teams could not. So I absolutely love to see that.
I would say there isn't a shred of doubt now that you can win a championship with Paul George as your second best player. It stinks. It stinks because Kawhi's out and we don't know how long. But I would shock if I'm a Clippers fan, which there's like a proud dozen of them out there. But in the Los Angeles area, at least there is. I would say that this season's been a good success. It's unfortunate luck because of Kawhi, but Paul. I think Paul George is that dude, and they have a hell of a coach in Tyronn Lue. And what a season. What a season from Tyronn Lue. I mean, he was a significant upgrade over Doc Rivers, I think. Like the adjustments that you saw him make against the Jazz and blanking on their first round matchup, but like they were doing it. Like they were doing the thing that we thought that they wouldn't do.
Are you telling me that Doc Rivers didn't do enough in-game adjustments in that 76ers
I don't want
series?
to. Yeah, I don't want to give any listeners a heart attack from like surprise or anything. But Doc Rivers has kind of been letting his teams down the past few years.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, like
Tyronn
Lue. Yeah, he's like that's not just LeBron's guy. Like he's a great coach.
Hell of a staff too. Hell of a staff led by Chauncey Billups. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Future Blazer head coach Chauncey Billups.
We'll see what happens. I still want him as the Celtics coach, but I know we got the Ime Udoka rumors flying right now, but you know, we're not going to be talking much Celtics coaching, but we are going to get onto that Kemba trade eventually. But first, we got to talk about the conference finals. Quick, Joe, let's get into the East. Let's get into the West since we've talked about these teams at length already. The Hawks at Milwaukee, man. I hate this matchup for the Hawks, but like I said, I've said that 3 rounds in a row. I think that you find teams with guys like Kawhi, Jimmy Butler, and Bam that can guard Giannis through these last 2 postseasons, but I don't think that there's a guy on the Hawks roster that can guard Giannis. John Collins is not that guy on defense. Clint Capella, I love him, but he's like 6'9.5". Giannis is a 6'11 and a half. He can't guard him. And I'm interested to see what they throw at them because I really love the defensive matchup for the Bucks. Like I love Giannis being able to guard anyone on that front line. I love Middleton.
Play free safety out there.
Absolutely. Middleton guarding Horford or whenever he's hot from the 3. And then you got Drew on Trey. Who else do you want on a guy like Trey? I know.
Perfect.
That's why I don't like this series for the Hawks. I'm going Bucks in 5, believe it or not. I'm going 5. I want to say 6, but Bucks in 5.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with everything you said. I think what Trae Young has done in this postseason, and I know I talked about it a little bit earlier, but it's nothing short of remarkable. He's ridiculous. As good as they come on offense in the league, his pick and roll game with Capella and John Collins. I mean, he has 2 guys that he has just unbelievable chemistry with. You know, Clint Capella is so much better than I think a lot of people give him credit for. He's one of the best defensive centers in the league, and he's one of the most cerebral. Yeah, this is how I'll word it. Cerebral rollers in the league. Like he finds those like soft pockets in the defense, and he knows to use his athleticism and his length to just rise up. And you know, when he has such a gifted passer like Trae Young, that's like a guaranteed bucket every time. Then you look at their wings, like you said, Bogdanovic, Huerter, legit dudes. Like these are guys that not only can they shoot, but they can make their own shots on their perimeter. They were the best wing players, I thought, in the Atlanta-Philly series. Bogdanovic a little bit less so because he was dealing with some injuries, but Huerter was incredible. You know, they got Gallinari, who had Ben Simmons shaking in his boots all series. You know, that defensive pressure from Gallinari.
Damn you, Ben Simmons.
Poor Ben Simmons, man. Yeah, with all of that being said, Bucks. I got Bucks in 4. I mean, I don't think Atlanta wins a game. Yeah. I don't think Atlanta wins a game because it's to me, Drew Holiday is the X factor. I don't think Atlanta had a guard defender. Not Atlanta. Philly had a guard defender at Drew's capabilities. Obviously, Matisse is incredible. Ben Simmons is the best defender in basketball, in my opinion. Neither of them are particularly well suited for a small, explosive guard like Trae Young. Drew Holiday is. Middleton is going to feast on Huerter, Bogdanovic, Gallinari. I don't know who they plan on putting on Middleton, but it's going to be a nightmare for Atlanta. It's not going to go well at all. Right. And Giannis is going to be far and away the best overall player on the court. Trae Young, obviously, you know, I can't sing his praises enough right now, but Giannis is going to dominate that series unlike anything we've seen from him in the playoffs so far. You can book it. I'm going to guarantee that. This is going to be Giannis's signature playoff series, in my opinion.
I love it. All 20 of you listeners, go put all your money on the Bucks right now.
Yes.
Joe Hagen's going to double down on it. That's what we like to hear.
Yes. Dude, I was gonna say I'll post my home address if this doesn't work out, man. If you guys have problems with me,
man.
Yeah.
Oh man, this is gonna get tough. Now I will say, man, Stephen A was on some nonsense saying Mitchell's the best player in the history of the Jazz because obviously Malone and Stockton. I get it in a vacuum. He's probably a single better basketball player than guys that played 20 and 30 years ago. I get that.
Mm-hmm.
Trae Young's the best player in the history of the Hawks. Dominique Wilkins never made a conference finals. Trae is amazing. He is the second coming of Steph Curry. I don't think he'll ever be Steph, but man, Trae Young, best player in the history of Hawks, in my opinion.
Yeah,
I'd rock with it.
Who's he got for competition? Dominique and
that's it.
My guy, Al Horford. My guy,
Jeff Teague, Joe Johnson.
Paul Millsap.
6 years of Paul Millsap.
Millsap was giving them good minutes in 2014. Kyle Korver.
The one-time All-Star, Kyle Korver.
yeah. You know what? I never thought about it, but I would say Trae Young's the best Hawk of all time, and he established himself pretty quickly. Yes. So, yeah.
Kids are different coming out of college these days, man. I'm telling you. Now, the other Western Conference final, man, Clippers at Suns. Suns win the first game. D-Book 40, 13, and 11, playing out of his mind without CP3. All right, big thing. No Kawhi, no CP3. Kind of feels like it's evens out. But, somehow, some way, I think the series is going 7 games. I think this is a classic. Clippers lose the first game like they continue to do. Even if they go down 0-2, I'm not counting them out.
I would feel better if I'm a Clippers fan if we go down 0-2.
Yeah. I don't blame you there, man. And I got to tell you, I love what the Suns team is doing. But CP3 being out is so hard for them. At the end of the day, I think that if it's just Paul George and Devin Booker, I think that the Clippers can still pull it out. But 7 games, that's what I'm seeing here, Joe. I don't know who's going to win. I could see either team doing it, but I think it's going 7 games one way or another.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I also think it'll go 7. I'm kind of leaning towards Phoenix. I have more faith in CP3 getting back than Kawhi. But whoever gets their star back for more games wins the series, in my opinion. And that stinks to say. If on the off chance neither of them come back, I think I'm still leaning Phoenix because they have Devin Booker, and I think Devin Booker is the best player in this series. Sans Kawhi, so
I think that's fair. Just tough. And this postseason has been all about health. The Bucks have been the healthiest team. They're only missing Dante DiVincenzo. Look at the Hawks; they've had guys banged up. Plus, they're missing DeAndre Hunter. No Kawhi and no Serge Ibaka for the Clippers. No CP, man. It's significant. It really is. And that's why I like the Bucks out of these 4 teams. I got to be honest. I see the Bucks as the NBA champion this year.
I do too. I held this opinion since before the playoffs started. As soon as the seedings were set, I thought Nets Bucks. Whoever wins that series, that's the champion. I mean, after the Celtics series, I was convinced the Nets would win it. But injuries change, things change. But
all about health.
The Bucks are the best team in the playoffs. I think they have been since Kyrie went down. I think that's fair to say.
I think that's very fair. I absolutely do. Now, Joe, let's move on, man. Since we both got the Bucks winning out here, all NBA rosters announced. First team, we got Steph, Luka, Kawhi, Giannis, and Jokic. I like that 5. Kawhi feels a little funny, but he had an awesome year.
Yeah, quietly great season. I mean, that's true Kawhi fashion. Be quiet about it, but he was really incredible. I think a lot of people underrated the Clippers this year just because they had that disaster in the bubble, and they talk all that trash like they were crowned the champions before that even happened last year. People just wanted to see them fail, and their successes kind of flew under the radar. But they were as good as it got this year in the regular season.
Yeah, I can't argue there, man. And we got the second team. We got CP, Dame, Braun, Julius Randle, and Embiid. Julius Randle kind of sticks out like a sore thumb. Had a phenomenal year one way or another. Brought the Knicks to their first playoff in whatever it was, 8 or 9 years. Averaged 24 and 10 or something. I'm making up numbers at this point. But Julius Randle had a phenomenal year. I'm not mad at it. I understand that there's other guys that have arguments, but I'm not mad at that. CP in the MVP conversation. Dame was Dame all year, man. LeBron kind of feels funny, but feels like he has to be there, even though he missed a couple months. And Joel Embiid, I mean, he was neck and neck with Jokic if he didn't miss so many games. So I like the lineup.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, LeBron was my big problem with it, but what are you gonna do? It's LeBron James. Of course, you're gonna put him on an All NBA team.
It's natural. This is how it works. You know,
this
is what's expected.
Yeah, Randall's the other one that sticks out. But like you said, man, the Knicks just had I'm not sure the Knicks could have possibly had a better season. Randall was incredible. With that being said, I'm not sure I would even consider Julius Randle, thinking of like the best forwards in the league.
Not even a little.
Yeah, no, like happy for him. Like, good job, man. You had a good year. Like, congrats on that All NBA second team, man. Really cherish that. Right? Yeah, really cherish that. I have a sneaky feeling that's going to be the only All NBA selection of your career. But good work. Man. Good work.
All right, you know what? You're being somewhat nice with these backhanded compliments, so we're gonna have to run it for Julius, man. We got the third team. We got Kyrie, we got Brad Beal, we got Jimmy Butler, PG-13, and Gobert. Honestly, kind of feels like Gobert was just thrown on here because a center has to be on these positions, which kind of sucks. It should just be positionless. It should be the best five, the next five, the next five. But I don't like Kyrie being here. He missed so much time. Beal was on the 8 seed, so it's tough. I don't think Jimmy Butler necessarily had a great year. I love PG there. But, man, when you look at guys like D Book, I know he missed a lot of time. When you look at Tatum, you look at Donovan Mitchell, you look at Russell Westbrook, there's guys that you feel like could be on here. There absolutely are.
Yeah. No, I mean, the NBA voters should be, what is it? The Hog? Tried at the Hog for not including Devin Booker in there. Where the war crimes get tried. They didn't have Devin Booker on their All NBA selections. Jason Tatum, in my opinion, clearly had a better season than Jimmy Butler and Paul George. The fact that those guys made it over them. Yeah, and Kyrie. I mean, I guess Kyrie's a guard, so, for my Jason Tatum propaganda campaign, I'm not so mad about it. But I think Tatum and Book being left out is just a travesty, man. Like, those young guys should be like rewarded for the season they had. And, I think you could make an argument that this is the toughest NBA season in recent memory for a whole host of reasons. But that condensed schedule, we saw beat up players all year. And did Devin Booker miss much time at all this year?
He missed time. I don't know how much, but I think he had some sort of injury this year. Yeah, what did we play this year? 72 games?
72. I just think compared to some of the other big name guys, he was something of an Iron Man, and that was pivotal for the Suns being as good as they were.
Yeah, he only missed 5 games.
Yeah, that's a great year. I mean, and I say hats off to Tatum, because I thought Tatum like really persevered this year and battled a lot of stuff. Obviously, his struggles with COVID were like super well documented. He had to use an inhaler and stuff. I think the numbers that he put up through the adversity that he did, it was a wildly impressive season. And just a side note, any Celtics fans that are talking themselves out of Jason Tatum are lunatics.
Idiots. Yeah. Lunatics. And I mean, also, NBA voters like to also vote on narrative. And if you look at Jason Tatum's 50 and 60-point games, and you look at him keeping the Celtics out of the bubble, and I know it doesn't count, or not the bubble, the play-in, and I know it doesn't count. I know it's postseason, but he's the only person that could beat the healthy Nets team. 50-piece to do it. It took a Thanos effort. I mean,
he was incredible.
He is, man. He is. And, Joe, we're going to stick with our C's. We're going to move on. But we're going to talk about this Kemba Walker for Al Horford trade. I'm super pumped to know what you think about this, but real quick, just get the details out. Kemba Walker and the number 16 pick in this year's draft, 2021, and a 2025 second-round pick went to OKC for Al Horford, Moses Brown, and a 2023 second-round pick. Honestly, I love this move. I think – I love Kemba to death, and Pat and I talked about it so much last week. I love Kemba, but the best ability is availability. And if you can't be on the court, we simply cannot pay you to play, man. And every single Boston fan wanted Kemba to succeed. No one roots against this guy. He has an awesome smile, dude. One of the best smiles in the world.
Yeah.
He's such a nice guy. You root for him. He's a great vet. And he had flashes of brilliance because he's an all-star level point guard. But you're not healthy. We had to move you for a guy that brings defense. We had to move you for a nice young big in Moses Brown that tore us apart when we played. And And this gets you off Kemba's contract. You save so much money. You save so much money in so many different ways. It's ridiculous. I said 2 weeks ago I wanted Brad to come in and make a splash as GM. He came in, he made a splash.
That's a splash.
I absolutely love it. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah. Honestly, I'm torn on it. And when I really sit down and think about it, I lean more towards what you're saying. The financial flexibility is probably the best thing possible for this young Celtics team moving forward. Like putting the right players around Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. That is what should be absolutely imperative on the mind of Brad Stevens at every move that they make moving forward is how does this player maximize Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown?
Every waking moment.
Yes, but unironically, like everything is Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown for the Celtics moving forward. They have pushed all their chips in on that. The thing is, like you said, all those like Kemba is like the most likable guy. Like you can even like think of like a good person, and like Kemba Walker is like the guy you think of. Basketball reasons why I don't like it. He's pretty handily the most talented player in this deal.
Yes.
Kemba Walker, when he's on the court, is going to help us more than what Al Horford and Moses Brown do combined. And you know how I am on Al Horford. I used to have some good Al Horford rants back in the day.
You did, and you're high on Moses Brown.
Yeah, I like Moses Brown. I like Moses Brown.
Moose.
I'm okay. I am at the end of the day okay with the deal, but I am worried because you never know how long the window is in the NBA for keeping your superstars happy. And at the end of the day, talent wins in the NBA. Mm-hmm. And the fact of the matter here is with this trade, the Celtics took a talent hit. And every time you do that, you run a risk. Like what if Kemba Walker turns around and balls out this year for OKC and Al Horford looks every bit as 35 as he is and Moses Brown can't move that well and we don't have the we don't have the 16th pick in the draft and that turns into a quality rotation player for the Thunder. There's a lot of things that could make this look terrible in hindsight. I understand why they did it. And the number one thing is that financial flexibility, but it concerns me for the team that we can put around Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown for next year. I am concerned that those guys might not have the juice to get it done and like be the teammates that they need to be for those two guys, because last year wasn't acceptable. And can we have two unacceptable years in a row? I don't know.
I mean, yeah, if we're the 6 or 7 seed again, the season's absolutely a failure. But I think this move also brings in reassurance for another player that's not healthy in Rob Williams. I think that this upgrades your defense significantly. And I think Marcus Smart slotting in as a full-time starting point guard, as much as anyone can go back and forth on Marcus Smart, at the end of the day, if he's the 4th or 5th guy that's shooting the ball, I'm okay with him being on the court. And if Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum continue to take that step, and thank the Lord we have Jason Tatum for the next 5 seasons and Jaylen Brown for the next 4, because like you said, we're in on them. Those are our guys.
Yeah. I mean, if you're a Celtics fan, at the very least, you have to feel fantastic about where you're at the center position.
Yes.
I mean, like this version of Time Lord is a really good player. You have Al Horford now. We still have Tristan Thompson rostered, which is going to be interesting how we navigate that. Mm-hmm. If he's still on the team next year, I kind of hope he is. I understand he has the best contract in terms of trading, but Tristan Thompson, Rob Williams, and Al Horford, that's a really, really good rotation of bigs that all provide something different, but are all positive impacts on defense. Like, but they do something that maximizes, like that's what we're going to keep going back to. Do they maximize the Jays? All 3 of those guys do. And I think Tristan Thompson was really good in the playoffs and towards the end of the season. It wasn't showing up on the stat sheet, but he was the best screen setter for Jason Tatum. They had a great pick and roll game. Couldn't really rely on Rob because of his health issues, but we've seen him be a borderline dominant player at times on both ends. So it's like, if we can capture lightning in a bottle and just prolong it a little bit longer for longer stretches with Rob, like if we get 15 great minutes of Rob a night and 10 just okay, and then you can supplement that with Al Horford, who provides great passing, great defense, good floor spacing, and Tristan Thompson, who can be a really good plus defender and obviously is one of the dominant rebounders in the league. They're going to have a really good bigs rotation. Again, I am deeply concerned about their guards, like deeply.
Yeah, I hear you.
Deep. It's deep.
now, Joe. One more question though. I mean,
yeah.
How many first round picks would we have to include to trade Al Horford and Tristan Thompson for Ben Simmons? It would never happen. Philly can't take on Al again. I'm just playing around.
That would be hilarious.
If we got them to take Al Horford, Brad Stevens is retiring as the greatest GM over Red Auerbach, over anyone. He's the guy.
Dude, you know Al Horford's sister? Do you follow her on Twitter?
Anna, yeah.
She imagine if Al went back to Philly, like all the trash that she's been talking about Philly fans.
That'd be tough.
That would be something. I wouldn't give up any first rounders for Ben Simmons in that situation. I think Al and Tristan are going to be super valuable to the Celtics next year. So I honestly would be hesitant to give up more than one. Like more than one, I would be like, all right, Philly, we watched the playoffs last year. Like we know what we're getting. You're trying to pull one over us here. But I think Ben Simmons would be a great fit in Boston if you're asking me. So
I think so too, man. And Joe, we could talk about what the Boston roster move should be, what their head coach, who their head coach should be, all this. But we got to move on, man. We got to talk a little Team USA. I'm actually rocking my dad's Larry Bird jersey that he bought in '92. During the I got a little stain on it. I don't think he knows, but we're not going to tell him. So this Team USA roster, it's being put together. There's 2 spots left. Quickly, I'm just going to rattle through who's committed. And, I haven't looked at my phone in the last hour, but I don't think anyone else has. But we got Dame Lillard. We got Drew Holiday, Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, James Harden, Chris Middleton, Jason Tatum, which I love, Kevin Durant, Draymond Green, Kevin Love. Kevin Love,
Chandler,
and Bam Adebayo.
Chandler, every team needs their end of bench guy. Every team needs we need a cheerleader on Team USA. That's
maybe Zion.
Yes, that was Zion.
Maybe Jaylen Brown. Maybe Marcus Smart. Maybe anyone but Kevin Love.
Oh my God. Can you imagine? Like, I know this is not what we're talking about here, but Marcus Smart and Draymond Green on the same team. That would be something.
Put PJ Tucker out there too while we're at it.
Oh yeah, just some like tough dudes. Let's get Marcus Morris out there.
You know what? My end of the bench guy is Ben Wallace. He's the 13th guy.
Yeah, like a 45-year-old Ben Wallace.
He'd still scare everyone.
Yeah. He's gonna be doing the Pistons lottery tonight. By the way, that's right before we're recording this. But the lottery,
forgot the lottery
is tonight.
We'll have to talk about that next week. But so Joe, man, I got to tell you, there's 2 spots left. Donovan Mitchell said he's out. Steph said he's out. Bron said he's out. CP3 said he's out. Who would you like to see fill those last 2 spots? I have a couple guys in mind, and I feel like they need another big. They have Bam, Kevin Love, and Draymond. Maybe you don't because it's the Olympics, but I feel like they need another big. But immediately I look at Kawhi Leonard, I look at Paul George, I look at Jaylen Brown, and I look at Carmelo Anthony. I think it would be awesome for Melo to get a roster spot here.
Yeah, he's the best Olympian basketball player of all time, right?
Yep.
Yeah. He's built for that stage, man. Jaylen Brown is still rehabbing that hand injury. He had that surgery.
Right.
So he's probably definitely out.
Kawhi probably tore his ACL.
Kawhi's probably out. Kawhi obviously is not the type of dude to mess around with injuries.
Yeah.
Paul George would surprise me. I just think like he would get dragged so bad if he committed to Team USA and then like lost in the Sun. So he might be avoiding that. He would be a great addition, obviously. Cat comes to mind. I'm not sure if he's technically American. I think he has dual citizenship with the Dominican Republic.
Yes, I believe so.
I'm not entirely sure if he is eligible for Team USA.
Right, no Cat then.
No Cat.
Miles Turner.
Miles Turner comes around, even though he got stuffed in a locker bad in the FIBA games.
Yeah,
like they had Jaylen Brown guarding centers because Miles Turner couldn't hang in that tournament. So he's kind of a good backup option. You know what? Let's get Marcus Smart in there because glue guys need the glue guys. I'm trying to think like who's the ideal big man.
We don't have
Bam's
any.
committed.
All the best bigs in basketball
I'm kind of at
are
a
from
loss
other
here.
countries. You got Nikola Jokic, you got Joel Embiid, you got Rudy Gobert. None of them are American. All the best bigs, are going to be playing elsewhere. But we lose some connection.
I think I lost you for a second there.
Yeah, I think you did.
Yeah.
I don't know what you heard I was saying, but
I heard you say you got Nikola Jokic.
Oh, yeah.
That's all I heard.
All right. Well,
I'm guessing I'm Serbian.
So Joe and I just had a little technical difficulty, but what I was trying to get out is the U.S. doesn't have great bigs. The three best bigs in basketball: Serbia, Cameroon, France. We don't have great bigs. I like Bam. I don't know who else can fill out that roster spot. It's going to be interesting because Lord knows it's not Andre Drummond.
Yeah, could be Mason Plumlee. Pop likes him.
I feel like there's always a Plumlee.
where are we as a society that we have Mason Plumlee representing us in the Olympics? But I mean, I don't know. Like Miles Turner probably is the best option talent-wise, but I don't know. He's like, I don't know. Yeah. He's not that good. He's fool's gold, So that's something that they need to address. But at the end of the day, you have. They have Damian Lillard, Bradley Beal, Jason Tatum, Kevin Durant. Does it really matter who
Harden, Middleton, Draymond?
Is?
Yeah, it doesn't matter. This team's winning it all.
Yeah. So who do you think is the starting lineup?
Looking here, I'd probably go Dame. I'd probably go Drew because I want defense in that lineup. I'd probably go D Book, Durant, and Bam.
Yeah. I get where you're coming from there. I would probably go Dame. I would take out Drew. I get what you're saying for defense, but I would take out Drew for Jason Tatum. So I think there's still a lot of defense there and added size. You slide Book up a position. You got Dame, Book, Tatum, Durant, Bam. Then you got James Harden probably isn't going to play a lot because of that hamstring, but I think he's just there for the vibes, to be honest. But, he might play a couple of minutes a game and spend some time at the point, but yeah, I'm not worried about Team USA.
Yeah, I'm not either. It's definitely going to be fun. It always is. I'm looking forward to watching this team play, and I'm looking forward to seeing who can push them a little bit. It's always fun watching a game get close and them winning by 25. So
it's always Spain or something like that. Just a really some country that just pumps out quality NBA players. Slovakia probably going to be up there.
Serbia has a nice squad too.
Serbia,
they do. Yeah. Bogdanovic and Jokic, and they got a squad. Joe, it's been fun, man. We're gonna move on to some listener questions. Just gonna run through these fast here, man. So my buddy John Chu submits 2 questions, and he said, "Please explain MLS 2." No, we're not gonna do that. The MLS announced plans to add a second league. It's going to be weird. There's not enough info yet, so we're not going to talk about that yet.
MLS 2 Electric Boogaloo. That's what they're doing.
Yeah. I was confused about that, but I saw the Electric Boogaloo. I was very confused. But man, next we got another question from John, and he said, "What non-top 20 teams in FIFA, so any country, soccer teams, could combine to make a top 5 team?" None of them. Absolutely none of them could break the top 5 if they combine 2 teams. Ridiculous question. I like this question from Jimmy McQuaid, nice Westfield alum here. "Have you been to the WooSox yet?" He said, "Great vibes at Polar Park." I have not been to the WooSox, man, but I have been hearing good things about it. I'm looking forward to checking out a game there eventually.
Yeah, me too. I used to go to the WooSox semi often, and I really like the WooSox, their stadium, their jersey designs. It's pretty cool. So I bet it's a cool atmosphere. Get some good baseball in. Those AAA guys are all fighting for it. So it's good sport. The WooSox are definitely go WooSox.
Yeah, dude, absolutely. We just became WooSox fans right on this podcast. Absolutely. Pretty good.
Yeah. Hold on. Sorry to interrupt there, Chandler, but I know you were a Maine Red Claws fan, and that just reminded me of. How do we feel about losing Crustacean Nation?
Dude, honestly, I don't know if we can talk about it. That was hard. The Maine Celtics?
It was tough.
What? Dude.
You know what?
Crustacean Nation. Oh, go ahead.
I thought if we're going to just name them the Celtics and just make the lobster green, Like, we should have given it the little bowler's hat and the cane, so it's a lobster holding that stuff. It's the worst move I've seen the Celtics front office make in quite some time.
Probably the worst move in sports in the last couple of years, just in general. Crustacean Nation was the greatest hashtag on Twitter, man. This is sad. This is sad.
Yeah. So you know what? We're putting all that positive energy behind the WooSox. Go WooSox. Don't do anything stupid. Please.
Joe, you just asked my least favorite listener question in the history of Right Off the Bus. 26 episodes in, asking me about the Maine Red Claws. Oh, that hurts.
I didn't mean to bring up any bad blood between you and the Celtics there.
It's okay. It's okay. It happens. Anyways, man, let's move on. My buddy Brett, Can we finally stop saying that the Hawks made a mistake with the Luka and Trae Young trade? Dude, 2 teams won. It can happen. I'm glad it happened. We got 2 superstars, 2 mega stars that are going to be around for the next 10, 15 years. I can't wait to watch both of them, man. Both these teams won. Teams won. This is awesome.
I wouldn't go so far as to say both teams won. I don't think the Hawks lost. I will say that. I've had a lot of great things to say about Trae Young so far on this podcast. I still put him in I put Luka in a different tier. Like, I think Luka is that much of a better player. I think LeBron James is the best player in the NBA, and then it's Luka. That's where I'm at with that dude.
Oh man.
Like, he is so beyond talented. Like, the things that I shouldn't say that because there's Kevin Durant. But Luka's in that tier of guys that are like, oh, this guy's clearly like going to be the best player in the league. Like, this guy is clearly like different from some of those other guys. And to think that your front office had a chance to just have him. You didn't have to do anything. You could have just taken them. And they didn't do that. They overthought it. I mean, and Atlanta is not nearly as guilty of this as Phoenix and Sacramento, even though it worked out for Phoenix too, kind of. Ayton's a nice player. But to have the opportunity to add Luka Doncic on your team and not do it is inexcusable, in my opinion.
Hindsight's 2020, my friend. Marvin Bagley was taken ahead of him, and that hurts to say as a Duke fan, but
yeah, that was ridiculous at the time. That was insane at the time.
But here's the thing, Joe. We only got so much time, and we could talk about this trade forever. But I think it's fair. I think both teams won, but I get what you're saying. Luka is that dude. He's that talented.
Yeah. But all respect to Trae Young. I'm not trying to disparage the young man. He's incredible. Good for Atlanta. They got a real dude there, but. Luka.
Trae also fits the culture, though. Like imagine Luka trying to fit Atlanta culture with like Quavo and like it would look weird, man.
Yeah. I will say, like, my turning point on Trae Young is when he was like quieting the Madison Square Garden crowd. And he said, "I'll see you back in the A." I was like, "That's right. We'll see you back in the A." Like, that's right, New York.
Tell him, Trae.
Yeah.
I'm with you, man. Trae's that dude.
Sorry. I don't think Luka's doing that, but two great players. Not mad at Atlanta for getting Luka. All right, Trae.
Both ended up with great fits, without a doubt, man. And another question from Brett: is CP3 cursed? Is this man legitimately cursed? Because, man, you think the Clippers are going to the Western Conference Finals and maybe winning a championship if he doesn't get hurt against the Warriors in that series. The Rockets. And it happened with the Clippers one time, too. I forget who they were playing, but with the Rockets, that Game 6 and Game 7, man, I mean, he might be cursed. This might be legit.
No, I think you're onto something. And I think right now is a fascinating case study, actually, of which curse is more powerful, the curse of CP3 or the curse of being the Los Angeles Clippers. Like, who could have more unfortunate things happen to them in the span of 7 games? That's going to decide who wins this series. I mean, Chris Paul finally gets to the Western Conference Finals after one run with Houston and just coming up short every year in LA. Gets COVID after getting vaccinated. Like, what incredibly bad luck. But Kawhi Leonard might be out for the series. It's a real heavyweight matchup of curses in the NBA, I think.
And absolutely, man. And that's a great way of looking at it. I love that too. Yeah. Last question, man, from our boy Joe Braverman from Westfield and his podcast, Let Me Speak Official on IG. Go check it out. But he asked, is it time to trade Ben Simmons? We already talked about this. It's time. It's time to move on from Ben. After hearing
Yeah.
what Joel said, after hearing Daryl Morey, after hearing Doc Rivers, having no support from your front office, having no support from your locker room, it's time. It's time.
That was rough. And I want to say this about Doc Rivers. I thought what he said was like incredibly whack.
Yeah.
Like I thought that sucked. I thought that sucked, to be honest, because he has been Ben Simmons' biggest supporter all season. I mean, he was singing his praises like halfway through this Hawks series. And it's like, what happened, man? Well, look, we know what happened. Right. Like it was rough. It was rough. And it was hard to defend. I'll give that to Doc. But like, don't leave your guy hanging like that. Like that's tough. And I mean, what Joel said, I think Joel was within his rights to say that. Like, I didn't think that was unnecessary or anything. Like, but that's got to be tough to hear if you're Ben Simmons. That's got to be tough to hear if you're a Philly fan, because his trade value, I mean, I know it's basically a must at this point that Ben Simmons gets traded. You can't bring him back. You can't bring back the same Sixers squad next year. But I don't think his trade value could possibly be worse. Like, we're talking about a CJ McCollum swap. That's not doing anything for Philly. I mean, CJ is a great player. No disrespect to CJ, but what are we doing here? CJ doesn't make you a championship contender.
Went to Lehigh in Pennsylvania. Local.
Yeah. For a Philly season that could not have possibly gone better in the regular season. I mean, they had that terrible year last year. It was basically what the Celtics just had. It felt like they turned it around. It was like, oh, maybe Doc is the right coach. Like Daryl Morey, like he is one of the best GMs in the league. And then to see it all come apart in the way that we all expected it to, just looking at the roster, like that's gotta hurt for Philly. Like, because clearly there's a problem that could have been addressed and just never got addressed.
Yeah, so, and I mean, for a player
now it's worse.
And for a player whose confidence is at an all-time low, hearing that, I mean, it's just gotta be absolutely gutting. You feel for Ben Simmons, even though this has been a Ben Simmons hate podcast. You still got to feel for the guy a little bit at the end of the day.
Hey man, I'm still taking Ben Simmons on my Celtics. We don't need him to score. Just give it to Jason or Jalen. They'll handle the scoring part.
Ben can average 10, 10, and 10, no problem on my Celtics. I'm here for it.
Yeah, like as long as he understands that he is a 4. Yep. But yeah, I mean, wow. I can't believe the way things have shaken out for the Sixers. I mean, I can believe it because I thought it was going to happen, but I can't believe I was right about it.
I hear you, man. All right, it's time to get towards wrapping up the show, Joe. So quick, before we get on to our little segment, what we've learned in this last week of sports, I'm gonna read a little quick ad from Book Thinkers. So you guys already know from listening to the pod, but if you read personal development books, you need to go check out Book Thinkers. This company is dedicated to helping you fulfill more every single day through books. And every single day on their Instagram, every week on their podcast, this team over there at Book Thinkers is helping you discover new books and new mentors that can help you achieve more and live better. So if you're interested, please go check out Book Thinkers. You can check them out on Instagram at Book Thinkers. Go to www.bookthinkers.com and find that book that can change your life. Now we're going to get on to what we've learned. Joe, I'll start us off here, man. And I got to say, what I learned this week, reflecting on these NBA playoffs, this has been the best NBA postseason in a long time. And I don't know since when, but yes, I understand the weird last 2 seasons. Yes, I know all these stars are out, but I think that's part of it. I think part of the fact that you're not seeing LeBron and AD and you're not seeing James Harden and Kevin Durant anymore, and that the final 4 teams haven't won a championship since the NBA merged with the ABA in '76. This is special, man. And also the fans just got back in the buildings.
Yeah.
The fans couldn't be there for over a year. There's something special about this NBA postseason. I love that it's the Bucks, Suns, Clippers, and the Clippers and the Hawks. 4 small market teams. You say LA, it's a small market because it's the Clippers. It's weird, man. It's interesting. Yeah. I love this NBA postseason, man. I absolutely do.
Yeah, I love it too. And it's been a joy to watch in ways that it hasn't been in the last few years as a Celtics fan, because the stakes are low for me. But I find myself watching games and being like, oh my God, please beat the Jazz. like, yes, Reggie Jackson, pick on Gobert, because that's hilarious. Like, I'm just rooting for the most chaotic outcome possible in every game. and it's basically happened every game. Yeah. So it's been great.
And building off of that, I think the only sport that I can think of where there's total parity in the league is Major League Soccer. A different team wins Major League Soccer every single year, and I love it. Yeah. You look at top soccer everywhere else, same teams win every year. You look at the NBA, the Warriors dominate, the Heat dominate, the Spurs dominate. They have their times. But man, there's never been more parity in the NBA than right now, and I absolutely love to see it. I really do. Joe, you learn anything this week in the world of sports?
I did. I'm going to get one last shot in here on Ben Simmons. I didn't learn it, but I was reminded of it. Kevin O'Connor of The Ringer, he's been harping on this for years. Ben Simmons shoots with the wrong hand. I think he shoots lefty. He's a righty. It doesn't make any sense why he does it. His feet are not facing the basket when he shoots. Everything is wrong about him mechanically. He needs a shooting coach. I don't know. He needs a sports therapist. He needs everything to get his mind and body right, because it's just not working for him, and it should. It makes no sense. But Ben Simmons is the biggest question. What is going on with you? I think I've ever seen in sports.
I think that's fair, man. I think that's fair. I hope he doesn't hear this podcast. I know he won't. I know there's zero chance, but there's a lot of podcasts going out that have a lot of similar Ben Simmons content on it right now.
Yeah. You know what, Ben Simmons, if you're listening to this podcast, my Twitter handle is Joe Hagen 77. You can DM me. I'll let you know my home address. You can come and beat the crap out of me, as long as we can have I'll make a podcast and put you on it, man. I don't care. But I'm not saying these things because I don't believe them.
You know what? The other thing I learned this week is that Joe loves giving out his address. That's what I learned this week on this podcast. Yeah. Multiple times already.
Whoever wants to come beat me up is welcome to.
Joe, I think that you throwing your Twitter handle out there is a perfect segue to wrapping up this show. I'll tell them to, follow and all that after, but if you want to just lay it out, tell them to find you on Twitter, tell them to find you anywhere else. If you got anything else going on you want to touch on, now's the time, man.
Yeah, no, I'm not up to much these days. Mostly talking trash on Twitter, so you can find me at Joe Hagen 77. That's my Twitter handle. Comment something. I like to engage, get into Twitter fights. It's one of my best pastimes. Also want to wish a happy birthday to my guy Tommy. Tommy, happy birthday. He's a writer for Patriots Life. You should check them out on Twitter. Great stuff. Happy birthday, T-Bone.
Absolutely love it. Happy birthday, Tommy. We're here for that, man. From the Right Off the Bus family to yours, Tommy. Yes. That's what it is. Now, you guys already know, but to wrap up the show, we just want to say thank you for listening. Thank you, Joe, for coming on and being the first co-host in the history of Right Off the Bus. 26 episodes, Joe. This is 6 months of podcasts. You got to be part of that, man. I'm so glad that you were able to come on here.
Chandler, I've been waiting by my phone for this invitation ever since I saw that you're starting up a podcast. I've been waiting by the phone. Finally came. Thank you so much for having me on.
Yes, sir, man. We made it happen 6 months later, and gotta love it, Joe. Thank you for coming on. And for all those listeners, I just want to say thank you for spending some time with Joe and I today, this afternoon, tonight, whenever you're listening to this, whether you're a Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday listener, we appreciate you. We do not take your time for granted. And the fact that you would spend an hour and a half of your week with us, it means a lot. We really appreciate it. So please go like, comment, subscribe, follow, message, do all that good stuff to try to boost our engagement. We appreciate you guys. And that wraps up episode number 26 of Right Off the Bus. Thanks again, Joe.
Thank you so much, man.
Peace.